5.1, Whariwaka East, New Public Road. Is Louise, come on through. Tell us all about Puna Place. Puna Rise, sorry. Is the red light on?
Ah,
Yep.
right. I think I was in holiday mode in January and omitted to include Puna Rise on the list for Whariwaka East on the February the 1st agenda, so my apologies. So now I thought I'd better include it in this one. Thanks to Tina and Shaney for getting it in the agenda very last minute today too.
So that's the first part of the Whariwaka, the one that's starting.
Yeah, so on the February the 1st agenda, in the introduction, the executive summary, I did actually refer to 6 road names, but somehow I didn't include that one, so only stated 5.
Some of our alert councillors didn't pick that up, hey? Yeah. John, where were you?
Mr. Chairman, I
was just testing you.
I did. There was 2 roads. That was the second one. And unfortunately, when I asked the question, why is that road not there?
I wasn't here. Scott was here,
Scott
sorry.
didn't have his microphone on, so I couldn't hear what his reply was, but I did raise it as a one road that wasn't there.
Yes.
Right.
So, yeah. Well done.
All right. Okay, Puna, what does that mean?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Could we ask Dylan?
So Punaaro has like a receptacle of love. So Puna is a receptacle.
Oh, you made me go
With
gooey.
Mrs. Trewavas, Your Worship.
Apply a section on that place.
Wow, I'm starting to blush now. Yeah. That's why it was left off. There was no love in January. All right. Okay, thank you very much, Louise. There's a recommendation there, and it's been cleared by everyone. So could I have a move, please? Move Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Right. Yes. Yes. No, yeah, that, one of the residents down there who initiated this whole thing, and I think you might have received a call from him, whose name just escapes me at the moment. Tony Paddock. Haddock. And he was just concerned that that he would like to come and talk to him, so I gave him speaking rights to the particular tender. As you can see, it won't receive any government funding, which was a sticking point for me, but I feel I have the responsibility to explain the situation, so he's quite happy for it to be deferred. Check with Mr. Lewis. There's no implications around the tender process that we see, so it'll be just deferred first item up at the next meeting, and Mr. Haddock will be in the tender. So that's the only reason. Yeah. Right. 5.3. Tender contract Poihipi Road seal widening. Brian, is Brian here? Oh, Claire. Good afternoon, Claire.
Afternoon, councillors. This agenda item is to seek approval for Poihipi Road seal widening. We're looking at the widening from Acacia Bay Road to just past Scoria Road. So it's basically from just joining up to where we've already sealed. So it's a continuation of our Poihipi Road seal widening project.
How long was that?
It's about 1.1 k's, 1.2 k's.
Don't get much for your money, do you? No. Okay. Have you asked for a discount, Claire? Oh.
Yes.
All right. Any questions are clear? So that's everyone knows where that is. So it's from what's the first part of Poihipi Road, basically. Yeah. So any questions are clear?
Well, once again, have the question in regards. It states here that's budgeted under the 2017-18 transportation program. Then you go on to talk about rehabilitation, maintenance and drainage. If you look at the long-term plan and the annual plan, one says 243,000 and 234. How does the logistics work when it's in those plans, but it's almost double the cost for this year's widening? How does that work?
Through the chair, Poihipi widening was 234,000 in our annual plan, and also we've got some budget in the minor improvement program for Right Turn Bay and Tuatini, and we're also using some of our rehab and maintenance budget, existing current budgets.
Okay, so the
It's a matter of when the project's done, it's achieving a whole lot of different things, and so therefore you do it all at the same time rather than because the rehab budget, as an example, sits there. You're not going to just do a widening and not rehab the seal in the middle, so it's apportioned out in that way.
So we've got 243 from the annual plan for this year, and the balance comes from those other funds.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So 459 in the three tenders. The other one was 1.1 million. Incredible, isn't it?
We got a discount.
Councillor Harvey?
Well, just a query, because we have discussed changing the road layout up, and I'm not sure what year or when, that road might actually move up to the Hooker Falls. So we have a roundabout. You know, one of those roundabouts that cost about $1 million? Well, that's half of that.
Yeah, but this is from the Acacia Bay Road, correct?
Past what
So that's past where you're talking?
Past that.
So that wouldn't come into a change? Have we looked at that?
So this is that next stage on. So that bit that you're talking about comes through that. I think it's Contact Energy Land through to come up with Hooker Falls Road. This is the next stage, so it's through the Wines. So I understand it. Yep.
Chairman, just one question I had. I talked to Riding for the Disabled because I wanted to get their name proper. In Taupo they call it Riding for Improvement. Development, sorry, but that's still RDA. There's going to be no alterations to that driveway of theirs, is there?
Not that I know of.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Affected parties, have they been advised of this, the widening? Sorry,
I'm not sure.
just asking, the neighbours and affected parties, do they, when a normal course of events, when a tender gets approved like this, do they get advised of the construction work? Is that on the contractor to do that? Okay, well, a question came from Councillor Body about RDA. Obviously, the egress out there is quite popular. So
just for the record, because obviously no one would have heard Colin online. So so we do the mail drop, and that's a council job, is that consultation. So we do that with all of our jobs. Obviously, we don't do that until after you've approved the tender, because there's nothing to consult on until you agree with it.
Cool. Okay, lovely. Very good. Okay, there's a recommendation there. Can I have a move? A move of Councillor John, seconded by Councillor Stewart. The price be accepted and go ahead. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. 5.4 is tender contract for Whariwaka Road to Rainbow Drive, the old perennial footpaths come up. Finally going to do it, are we? Claire, are you on this one too?
I am on this
Oh,
one
good.
too.
There you go then.
This is the footpath on Lake Terrace. We originally put it into 2 stages and went out to tender on our first stage. First stage came back and it was actually well over our budget in the long-term plan. So we've basically repackaged it up in 2 stages, and this is the second tender. So we're seeking approval for the construction of the 2 stages together.
Burgess Construction, they've done work for us before. Burgess and Sons.
Don't think so.
They're just it's a new name.
I think they're from Hamilton. Mm.
From Hamilton. Okay, cool. All right. Any questions? Councillor Body?
Again, Mr. Chairman, once again I'm fascinated. Long-term plan, annual plans, all that drama. In the long-term plan, it was 170,000 was allowed in our forward budgeting. There's nothing for this year. And I think at the last meeting when I questioned, I think Mr. Lewis told me it was bow wave expenditure. I'd like to know how it's gone from like 174 to 400. But secondly, I'd start to question the need for that particular path. When you talk to the residents of Whariwaka, the reaction I got was most of them walk down to the lakefront and walk along the lake if they're going to go anywhere. And once again, is 400,000 better doing the Lions walk up? Or is it 400,000 for whom and when? I'm at this stage against that expenditure.
2 questions there.
From Whariwaka to
the price is 337, correct?
Your worship,
Yes.
I think from memory this came as a submission to one of the annual long-term plans from residents in Somerset some years ago.
Many years ago.
Through the chair, just in response to the budget, we have got an approved budget of 400,000 for our footpaths this year, which we are using that. We do have NZTA subsidy for the footpath, plus we also managed to get 100% subsidy for Hooker Falls footpath, which we hadn't banked on, so that local share that we had for that path has come into this, which is why we've got that 400,000. In terms of the need for it, Somerset, I actually received a letter last week from the manager at Somerset, and they're actually basically saying that they support and for the construction and look forward to the implementation of it, because a lot of their residents use the Lake Terrace to go from Somerset down to the dairy, fish box and the ploughman, so it's actually a good run for them.
So just in terms of need, if I can, please, it's actually not your role at the moment to debate the need for the path. You've already done that through the long-term plan, and so if you weren't going to do this project, you'd actually have to do a long-term plan amendment or include it in your next long-term plan to have it removed. So you've already had that debate. This is about whether or not you accept a tender or not.
Okay. Thank you, Claire. So there's a suggested recommendation there. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Harvey. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Okay. Yep. Anyone else against? Councillor Body next. Yeah. Would you like that recorded, Councillor Body? Yep. Okay. 5.5. District bulk haulage. Thanks, Claire. District bulk haulage contract. Mr. Brent Aiken. Afternoon, Brent.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. This contract is run by Mora Waste. It picks up all the refuse from our district transfer stations. It's the final rollover of this contract. They've been forming up to the KPIs. Our recommendation is to roll it over. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brent. Any questions of Brent? No? Okay, this is just a recommendation there. The existing contractor. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Williamson, seconded by Councillor Body. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 5.6. Tender contract again, Brent, for quality improvement device.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, this is the key quality improvement device for the district. It is the highest contaminant load from our monitoring data that we get. It's obviously taking a huge catchment area from the CBD. We just look at the visual contaminants coming out compared to the ones that we've already put in, and it's actually chucking quite a bit of dirt in our lake. So it's a key one we want to be able to try and get sorted. Happy to answer some questions.
Thank you. Any questions, Brent? Councillor Park?
Sorry, I was just going to mention probably the one that you need to, well, the thing that you need to keep in mind with this one is the location, and during the construction it is going to be quite high visible, and there will be impacts, particularly for that path, which will be the most well-used path in the town. Brent's all over that and has got provision in place to ensure that people can still walk past and things like that.
Yeah, we're lucky enough to have J, who constructed the hole-in-one device. We've already had some site meetings even before leading this contract about making sure we've all got the same vision of accessibility for the community. So we'll have some robust plans in place to be able to make sure that some safe and access is allowed for.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Just part 2 of the resolution about approving additional 24k of capex to be funded by loans. How is this? Usually we asked about unbudgeted expenditure for additional. And I'm just wondering why it's being done this way around this time.
So it is actually unbudgeted. The tender came back $24,000 over the budget, so that's what we're asking for, 24k to be able to get the job done.
Right, I just haven't seen it worded like that before.
Sorry about that.
Cool. All right. Any other questions?
Stormwater budget. Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a mover, please? Oh, Councillor Hickling?
So, do we have to raise a loan just for 24,000? I mean,
We
surely-
raise a loan for any capital work because it's loan funded over the life of that. Yeah, so that's the difference between operational and capital.
Yeah, so was the toilet facilities at Turangi
Yes.
capital expenditure or?
Yes. So anything where you build an asset on council land is capital, and we loan fund that for intergenerational equity. So
Yeah, yeah.
operational is about us going and cleaning the toilets. The construction of the toilets is capital. Anything over, is it
But that
$500
was
Ellen?
unbudgeted, and this is a loan.
This is unbudgeted, as Brent said. Yeah.
So the loan will be taken for 324,957. Yeah.
So it's probably confusing. It's probably confusing wording there. Really, it should be that council approves additional unbudgeted expenditure for $24,967.
Sorry, just through the chair, just another point is, I mean, the engineer's estimate was bang on the amount in the plan, 300k, but yet quite a few of the other tenders, the engineer's estimate's quite a bit lower than the tenders that are coming in, and what is in the budget. Like with the footpath, that's 337 or whatever it was, and there was 400,000, but the engineer's estimate's usually different. It just strikes me quite funny that this tender, that the engineer's estimate is bang on what was in the budget. Yeah, it's just unusual.
Brent's a pretty good estimator, obviously.
I have some powers. Jazz hands. That's all I've got for you. Obviously, we looked at the design and everything and got the budget pretty close. Yeah. So obviously we didn't get the budget as well as we and the estimate as well as we would like because we're 24k out.
Okay. Suggested recommendation there, so I have a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Williamson, seconded by Councillor Kingi. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brent. Right, Kinloch.
I like the jazz hands, that was awesome.
Kinloch wastewater treatment plant effluent holding tank. Have I? Oh, sorry. Whakamaru. Wish I was on Villager. Sorry, Whakamaru. Oh, that was on purpose, sorry. Jess. Mike, how are you?
That's our new thing.
Right, Michael, is it worth doing this?
Let's run through it.
Yeah.
So this first one is Whakamaru wastewater treatment plant. The reason for this item is to award a contract to upgrade the treatment plant. It's effectively building a new treatment plant at Whakamaru. What's there is pretty basic, and it's largely funded by the budget that we have, which is pretty close, but we've identified a couple of risks. So we've got a contract contingency sitting in there, and that's funded through our existing budgets as well.
Very good. Any questions on Mike?
Mr. Chairman, just technical one. What's alkalinity got to do with the contract?
Technical.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, so it's a property of the water that you're treating. Yeah, so you've got to have the right balance. You've got to have the right alkalinity levels in your wastewater to be able to for certain treatment processes to work. And so if that alkalinity is not right, you adjust it. And so there's a capital bit of kit you can install to make that adjustment.
It may not have to be added.
Yeah, there's a risk that it's as we commission the plant and do some testing. But yeah, the contractors have identified that as a risk, and so we've allowed for that. Yep.
And what was the engineer's estimate on this one?
Well, the engineer's estimate was for the total contract in our budget is 400. We've got 388 remaining. We've done some design work and some tendering work, so the actual contract sum of 349 fits within 388 we've got. There's a small bit of contingency we're allowing on top of that to cover those risks.
Cool. All right. Councillor Kingi.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question that I couldn't see in there, and this is just raising, I guess, a question. Was there any dialogue with iwi in respect of this? I'm just reflecting on our conversation this morning around the Turangi site, and I think it's important if we're going to try and set a standard in this council that we do it right from the get-go. I couldn't see that in.
Yes, and it's not. Yes, to answer your question, yes, those conversations have happened, and this is just for the award of the tender. But through the process of getting a new resource consent, we've had those discussions, and one of the outcomes was a planting program on the lake, on the riverbed, on the river edge, and so there's a joint agreement to implement that. Yep. Cool.
Okay, so just a recommendation there, whakaaro upgrade. Open move, thanks Councillor Kingi, seconded by Councillor Truman. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. 5.8, Kinloch. Wastewater treatment plant effluent holding tank.
Yep. So similarly, this is an item to accept a tender to construct an effluent holding tank within the treatment plant site. And the purpose of the effluent holding tank is to enable the next project, which is the irrigation to the Kinloch Golf Course. So this is a sort of a first step in that process.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Mike. Any questions, Mike? Okay, I have a mover for that. Thanks, Councillor Jollins, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. 5.9 is Kinloch wastewater treatment flood protection access improvements.
Yep, so this is also related to the tender award for the Kinloch wastewater treatment plant. And the issues we have, the Kinloch treatment plant is built in the floor of the gully, so when we get big rainfall, there's some area parts of the plant which are at flooding risk, and some of our assets are at risk. And also our operators and contractors can't get to site after heavy rain. Now I know there's been a few people concerned around the relocation of the access, which is intended to be off Whangamata Road, and I'd just like to stress that this access is to be used during those flood emergency type events. The normal access will be retained for normal operation, but we need an alternative during those times.
Cool.
So sorry, through the chair, I had a conversation at the LTP meeting at Kinloch with a group of residents around that access way, and they were more accommodating once they realised that it certainly wasn't going to be 100% of the time, and we estimate somewhere around 10% of the time it will be used in those bad weather times.
All right. So just recommendation, I move again, Councillor Jollins, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Okay, Council's February performance report. Garrett.
Okay, so microphone on. So it's been a busy old month, to be honest, and probably the biggest thing there is the start of the LTP consultation process. It's, if I was brutally honest, it's quite a difficult time for staff going through that consultation. It's quite it's a horrible time. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's quite angry about things, and they look to us as it's our fault. So obviously the road changes and the proposals for road marking has been something which has been hot in people's mind around the community. And I think it's fair to say that my staff have taken the brunt of a lot of that. So I certainly acknowledge them, because it's an incredibly depressing place to be for a staff member sitting there who can't answer off this criticism, have to basically sit and take it, and yet I don't think there's any other business that I can think of, probably with the exception of central government, where that's the case. So I'd like to publicly acknowledge them, because it wears you down over a period of time, and that's the joy of working in local government, and that's what we've got to live with, and that's why we do work in local government, because it shows how close we are to the community. But yeah, you do definitely feel in a defenceless position, because you simply can't answer that at this point, because, as you know, we're about to go into deliberations, so it would be unwise for us to do so. So that consultation is progressing. I think it is progressing well. We've had relatively good turnouts, and thank you to the councillors that have turned up to those various meetings. We've had good turnouts from the public to those open days to date, with some very good feedback. And I think think we're going to get a good number of submissions in, which will be healthy for you to consider through. And I think it's fair to say that there's some really good ideas that people are putting forward, which you'll have to and want to consider. The other points that I'll point out there was it was a pleasure for Deputy Mayor Rosie and myself to be down in Wellington at the Rural Provincial meeting. A couple of points that I've pointed out there was the first one is water. It's a real major issue for us, will be as a sector going forward. I think the government's made it very clear that they're going to change the rules that we operate under. In two ways. One is that, as you know, the drinking water standards as we currently have a segment in there that say that communities must meet those drinking water standards where practicable. Very clearly the government is saying, local government, you've let us down generally, and that you've used those where practical words and around affordability as an excuse to not treat drinking water to an appropriate standard. And quite clearly government is saying that's unsustainable and unacceptable. So they're clearly going to change that, and it will be a mandatory requirement to meet those standards. And in fact, they are also saying that the standards will change and increase even more to make water safe. Quite frankly, the government's saying, look, the difference between a first and a third world country is that reliability of being able to brush your teeth with confidence that you're not going to get sick from it, which I think we would all acknowledge. What comes clear from there is that the government say, look, we know that's going to put increased costs onto communities, and given that they're saying that affordability isn't a defence against upgrades, they're saying that they are willing to help fund some of that. But on the flip side of that, they're saying before you come to us asking for any money, you better make sure that you're doing everything that you can to make sure that you're as efficient and effective as possible. And so that's really putting the challenge out, I guess, to councils to say, look at everything in your toolbox, whether that be amalgamations of water supplies right through to the way that you operate before you come to us asking for assistance. So that's going to be a really challenging space. The way the government see it is they look at the likes of, say, a milk factory, Fonterra milk factory, and the standards that the food hygiene standards that are put into producing a litre of milk, and they compare that to the litre of water and say, look, there is a difference at the moment nationally, and that's unacceptable. They want to have that same level of surety that the aero industry has, as an example. You know, you simply don't hear of airplanes crashing very often, and that's the type of assurance that they want in that water space, which I think all of the industry experts would agree with, and agree that there does need to be some change. So that was quite a major part of the discussion that we had at the Rural Provincial meeting. For me personally, listening to my counterpart at Hastings was very sobering. He sat there and apologised to the people. There was 4 people who died, partly as a result of the process that happened there, and there was 5,000 people that got sick. So he said, look, I apologise to the families of the 4 people. I apologise to the 5,000 people that got sick. He said, I apologise to the 30,000 people in my district. Now I apologise to the industry generally, because that's going to require a whole lot of change. It was pretty sobering, to be honest, and particularly hearing the impact that had on that community, and in particular that council and him personally. So, and then the other one, which I'll let the Deputy Mayor talk about if she wants to in any detail, but the Deputy Mayor did attend a freedom camping workshop as well on that same day, which my understanding was that it was very worthwhile, and that there's a working group going to be set up to look at freedom camping issues generally. So I think that's probably all I'll talk about in terms of that introduction, unless there's any questions, and then we'll just work through the performance report. Questions? Councillor Rankin, sorry. So I think there's always lessons that can be learnt, and you'll see that we put additional signage up more latterly up there. It was late, and yeah, so we have tried to do that. To be honest, we probably communicated more than what we would have in the past. In the past, we would have just gone and done it. But it is something that we're continually working on and trying to improve on. Roading issues are difficult because we literally have 20,000 people who are roading engineers because they all drive cars. But I think the other part of it for this one is that some people got confused thinking that the changes that we did make there were our total attempt at fixing the problem. It's never been our intention that removing a few lines and putting a sign up was going to solve the problem. It's step one of a number of steps to get there. So that's probably where we weren't able to get that message through. We did try, but people, particularly with social media these days, they only look at the photo or the headline, and that was very obvious when you read through some of that social media stuff, which the answers were in the item, and it was in the item that it referred to, but they clearly hadn't read it.
Through the chair, just on that particular issue, I come over the hill a fair bit too, and when that right turn is taken out to Redoubt Street will help, because I have to, you skirt around these doors and it shortens that time into that roundabout. So otherwise, it seems to be working okay.
So that is happening, Kevin, when we're looking at that.
So in the aid of good communication, that'll be happening after Easter. So we didn't want to do it before Easter. So we've written to the bus companies, and we're just everything's in place to put that in operation. But we'll probably wait for the week after Easter, if not the week after that.
Okay. Could I just thank staff after 3 years of asking that red cars on that sign have been painted to green. I don't know how much difference it's made, and I believe the zip's round the wrong way, but that's just me.
I think it's an American zipper.
Yeah, but if I backed into it, it'd be better. I want to raise. There's a couple of questions. At your meeting when they talked about water, was there any mention of security of supply? And the second one is, what do we now consider as third world countries?
I can't answer the second one. The first one, security of supply, what the government are looking at, and I'm on the local government New Zealand working group for it, is everything from source water right all the way through to turning on the tap. So security of supply is part of that. But I guess the allocation issues are clearly in the regional council responsibility at the moment.
I raised the question in regards of the third world countries, because I travel a little bit, and I can go to cities all around the world that have, in brackets, safe water, but when you move out into the countryside, like if I went from Taupo to Mangakino, I would expect a completely different water supply from that small town. And the reason being, these small towns and cities in some of these countries don't have the ability, like we don't have, to pay, so bottled water is a big thing.
So what the government is clearly saying, and through the standards, is that that's not what they want. They want to have one level of water standard right throughout the country, and that's why they're saying there will be cost to that, and they have to be part of that solution.
Otherwise we'll crumble to all the other pressures.
We'll change the government.
To be fair, just on that comment, to be fair, both parties are together on that, and so they're both singing from the same song sheet.
Okay. We were on amalgamation too. Anyway, thanks very much. Yeah. Rosie, did you want to add Freedom Camping about the Ferry Road? Yes. Oh, good. Thank you. We'll consume there. Yep.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.
Do I have to start again? The Minister appeared to be extremely interested in everyone's views, and most of the mayors were there, and so there was quite a... The problem is some areas are keener on some ways of handling it than others, and some like fines and some don't, etc. So the main thing was to try and get something that was uniform that everyone can work with. So I think everyone was very on the same page. Establish a working group of the areas where it matters more, and take that further and continue to work with all the various parties, such as, you know, DOC and the, you know, Camping Association, all of those various groups that need to be at the table, which I've got on here. So really, we're just going to move forward with that and hopefully keep it moving, get some resolutions soon, because it obviously is on most people's minds.
Okay, Treasury management's still a challenge with the OCR staying at 1.75. I know Donald Trump's trying to help as far as some of his actions, and maybe the Cold War with Russia might push them up as well. But notwithstanding that, we've got a return on the general funds of 3.29% and a return on the TEL fund of 4.9%. So one is hopeful that we can continue getting that level of return. If I move to the actual financials themselves, as I mentioned earlier, we're in a process at the moment of trying to do a detailed forecast for the year end. There's so much happening. Previous council meeting, you approved $1 million of unbudgeted expenditure. Today, you've gone through a number of contracts which will enable us to eat into the CapEx budget that we had set for the year. At the moment, the surplus is looking quite favourable compared with the year-end budget. But as I say, until we've actually done that detailed reforecast, which we'll be bringing back to you at the next meeting, to know exactly where we're going to be at year-end is still very much up in the air. But as you can see by the balance sheet, things sort of fluctuate. Like at the end of February, our net debt was 18.1 million. One of the reasons for that was that February was a rating month, that we actually received a quarter of the year's rates during the month of February. And based on the capital expenditure that you've approved already today, you can see how quickly that net borrowing position is going to change. But we're still confident that we're going to finish the year in a debt position in line with what we budgeted. The growth in the revenue is no different to what I explained last month as far as the fees and charges and things of this nature. There's one or two little quirks there, and Councillor Truman probably picked up the loss on sale and the balance of Tirahonga Forest. Actually, we made a profit of 670,000 on that forest, but what actually happened at year end was we were still harvesting, and based on what the harvesting values were at that stage, we had to write the value of the forest up to that level at that particular time. And then subsequent to that, when they finished the felling, and it was in the more difficult areas, the return wasn't quite as great as what was prior to that particular financial year. So no, we haven't lost 242 on the forest. We made $669,155 to be exact. So it's just one of those quirks from an accounting basis. So, but apart from that, things are, as I say, tracking, but I'll pass over to Kevin and he can talk about the area that spends all the money.
Afternoon all. So just a general comment before we move forward on the infrastructure is you just approved $2.5 million worth of tenders, which will aid us in actually moving forward and delivering our capital program. So thank you very much for that. The team have been working pretty hard to deliver that. And I'll just comment on the water. So first one is Waitanui.
Yes. He's doing that one.
I'll do that as well when we get through to it. Yep.
Oh, I got community service followed by water.
This first.
Yeah. That's why you need a written copy, Kevin.
Right. Okay, community services. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Councillors. Community Services. This is one I can actually be speaking a lot more to in the future, given our slight realignment of management roles. I now have the regulatory role sitting under my purview, and I'm slowly getting to grips with that range of activities. So just talking to those managers, certainly the level of activity remains high in those regulatory areas, and so I think the budget lines that are shown there will continue. The other area of community services that I have responsibility for is the civil offence area. One of the slight changes we have in this space is around our controllers. Yesterday, the chair of the Emergency Management Committee and I spent some time at the joint committee meeting in Hamilton, where Doug Wilcox was appointed as a local controller. In the interim of you making the decision to have him recommended, we had another resignation as a controller, and she sits behind me, Ariel King, who is leaving us, and with great sadness we will be looking for another controller very shortly, so the world keeps changing. So in the civil offence space though, a lot happening in the recovery area. There's changes to the legislation that will give some powers to group and local recovery managers, similar to what the controllers have. So normally I would say I'm happy to answer any questions, but in the regulatory area I'm probably not at this point in time until I get to know it better. But in the civil offence area I'll certainly do my best if you wish to ask anything.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, it's not civil defence, just the dog number is of 161. I think the media a couple of months ago they put an official information request in regards, I think, with fines issued. So that's really what I'm asking. The big thing is control of the dogs, but how many fines have been issued to make people wake up that do have responsibilities?
Sorry, John, I couldn't answer that question right now. I'll certainly go and find out for you.
That's fine.
So resource consents, we come to you now.
Always look forward to seeing you, Your Worship. Yes.
Now, Ariel, you mentioned Ariel's departure. She didn't get our permission. No?
And she didn't get mine either, Your Worship, to be quite honest.
I was sad, but no doubt we'll have some formal acknowledgement of Ariel's input. When do you leave, Ariel? 20th April. Hopefully we'll see you before then. Okay, nothing from community service. Kevin, now it's your turn.
Sorry.
Water.
My apologies for that, I was put wrong, so that's good. So just Waitanui. Water, so the easement has now been negotiated on that road, and the contractor will be on site sometime in April. And we may have to put some temporary storage in there to commission the reticulation. It's just a timing thing, and then we'd put the permanent tank back in there. The work out at Waitanui is going really well. And on the next page, through there on page 89, just work our way through there. Kinloch, Lock Eagles, the expressions of interest for the detailed design has gone out. We've evaluated it. We're going to narrow it down from 7 through to 3, and processing on a design and build process from now on to get that delivered in time. Bonshaw Park water safety plan is due in the next month or so. We're working on a whole lot of water safety plans. Water is certainly topical at the moment. We're taking that job very seriously. And Marpa Road bore pump station has been completed. It's about 90% complete. We just got some telemetry and some final cut-ins to do there. And Motuapa construction, they're on site and will start in earnest after Easter. The tanks have been delivered, and we're thinking about an end of June completion for that. I'm happy to take any other questions on water, but if not,
any questions on water? No? Okay. Transport.
So if you look at the figures there, the majority of that is around the LED lights. There's $2.5 million there. And once we move into that project, we'll be delivering that and getting those graphs up a little bit better in that space. And just a reminder that you just approved in the roading one to make sure that we are delivering on those. It's about 934,000 was just approved through that.
Chairman, on transport we allowed 100,000 for the northern outlet, Norman Smith Street. I notice in our agenda paper it's 141. How come it got nearly double, nearly another half?
So through the chair, once we entered into the investigative part of that project, became apparent that we needed to use some more modelling. Some would say that we're still doing it on the lean side, but it was certainly something that we needed to make sure that we're getting all the attention that we are getting on this in this space, that we will have the answers when we go through the LTP consultation phase.
Mr. Chairman, that additional funding, did that have to come through council to approve, or something within staff jurisdiction to be able to accept that?
So through the chair, we've taken it out of other operational budgets in the transportation area. So there's no extension to any other budgets.
But it's still come out of transport?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, no questions, no other questions on transport? We go to community facilities.
So the bulk of this one is really Otamahiki, the work that we've done there, and we thank you for approving that tender and the unbudgeted expense there. So the contractor is preparing his environmental plans, his health and safety plans. We've got the consent applications in now, once that was fully approved. So we're waiting for those, and we're planning to be on site and turning soil in mid-April in that space.
Okay, any
Questions
questions? No?
Cool.
Wastewater?
So the wastewater one, I'll just point out that the 395 unbudgeted is included in that, and so that's why it's showing that the total operational budget will be forecast over. But as Mr. Mahina said, that we're working our way through some more forecasting to get a better view of what this can look like end of year. And we've done a lot of work, and you've just approved another $700,000-800,000 in the wastewater area at Whakaaro and Kinloch. And that's about all I think I need to mention there, unless there's any other questions. I suppose it's operational. We have had a few wastewater overflows, some spills, and we're working our way through that, through those issues, and talking to the community in some instances. And to be fair, we've just got something through from the Tukanu, a group of Tukanu, some councillors are aware of, and we'll be answering those off and having a face-to-face meeting with them in the near future.
Kevin, might be just worthy to note the issues that we're having with some of those location and manholes, just in case councillors get contacted by residents.
I was wondering whether I can put some slides up, if we can, for now, as we're getting those. But so as we're going around doing the work that was unbudgeted, 395,000, we're finding about half of the manholes have been covered. So we're spending a lot of time actually. That's relatively easy when they're covered up by a garden or a bit of lawn. Some of them are more substantive than that. So we're having to work our way through and have conversations with them about removing footpaths and driveways and things to make sure that we have access to those manholes, because they're very important. Once we have a spill or something, the manholes are on a change of grade or a change of direction. That's where the blockages are likely to happen. That's where we need to get to pretty fast to fix the problems. So what we've got here is some photos you've seen before. So that's the fat that we are finding when we go through and do the work that we have been doing. Next slide, thanks. Next one, just the first three again. That's fat again. You've seen that. That's our preview one. So this is the type of thing that we are finding, and this is what we call a third-party issue. So just a reminder that those dry weather spillages that we have are due to fat, roots and wet wipes is about 50% of those, and about a quarter are due to faults. So our renewals plans will take care of that, and then the other quarter is to do with third party, and this is the third party here. That one there is it's either a fibre optic or a gas main going straight through. That's our sewer main in all its glory, and right through the middle. And again, that's another one through the middle of the pipe. Some of these, it doesn't take too much to imagine how that will block up, and it will block up fast, therefore causing an overflow of a manhole into our stormwater system and into the lake. So these are the things that we are finding now that we've got that extra money to do this detailed investigation, and these are the things that they scare the hell out of me, really, to find those types of things in the numbers that we are finding.
I've got a question.
And this was around the broadband and everything, you know, when those came through.
So those third parties that you find that have done that, are we getting compensation from them for that?
So we'll do everything that we can to do that, but the fact is sometimes the horse is bolted as such, because some of these are 2 or 3 years old. But we'll certainly try every avenue that we can.
But we're definitely going to get them remedied.
Absolutely, remedied is number one, so they're getting remedied as we speak.
What can we do to make sure that this doesn't happen again with third parties? What can we do to mitigate it?
Yeah, so we're working through our operational procedures. So when these people now come, to be fair, it was probably of the time there was a lot of thrusting going on. I don't know about Taupo because I wasn't here then, but in other places that I worked, they were going like 3 or 4 places at once around the thing to make sure they got through in a couple of years. But this one we've got a bit more time, but what we will do is we'll make sure that we get them to open up every lateral, every connection. They won't rely on the as-built. We'll take as an opportunity to upgrade our as-built at the same time. So they'll physically have to cut holes and to site these things before they go thrusting. We'll also, if we're not sure, we'll make sure that we have a CCTV work in place as well. And if we have to, we'll have someone stand over them from now on, because that's not acceptable.
Jim, just to follow up on Councillor Jolin's, so when these people put down the fibre optic or whatever they're laying, don't they need to come to council to find out what infrastructure is below the ground?
Yeah, absolutely.
Such as the pipeline? So
Absolutely.
they haven't been doing that? No,
so back in the day they would have done that. They would have been handed a whole lot of as-builts. And to be fair, our part, we would have said, well, that's our part done. But the proof is in the pudding. What we've seen here now in other areas that were after the first initial lot of fibre optic that went in, the local authorities took a lot more hands-on approach. We didn't take it at that time.
So, Mr. Chairman, would it be fair to say that when they first started, whoever it may have been, that would be on the council records, would it not, that they have come to see what the infrastructure, like you see on gas pipelines, ring before you dig. So we got no tracking of, it could be 3 years ago, 5 years ago. We can't track it.
No, we can track roughly who was in that area, but you know, it's proof of law. You've got to prove, you've got to see things almost to actually get it across the line. But we'll try everything we can to make sure A, it doesn't happen again, and B, if there's any recompense, we'll try and make that.
Mr. Chairman, we might get an update of this particular issue at the next meeting.
Yep. And so these are just some things. So we're doing the extra work here, but obviously we had $150,000 in our operational budgets to do this type of work. So this is down in Turangi, and this is the type of thing that we're finding down there. So this is just gravel and rags and wet wipes and stuff down there. So it's not limited to up here, but we are continuing our work. This is obviously root intrusion and severe root intrusion because it's actually broken through the pipe. So that's something we'll work through, and that's, believe it or not, underneath all of those roots there's a manhole somewhere. So that should be on the surface. So that's the type of thing that we are finding more and more, and we're just working our way through.
Gary? So, Kevin, are we going to get these people to divert the cables from our stormwater?
Yes, we can't leave it there.
I was going to say, you're not going to leave them there.
So we'll dig it up, repair ours, and they'll have to work over ours. So that's
so
sometimes
that'll be at their cost.
Absolutely, and it's not an easy fix for them because sometimes they'll have to go back, 10, 20, 30 metres to get the height to go over it.
Yeah. Okay. Tom?
Thank you, Worship. Kevin, just in regards to Takani, you just made reference to it. I'm really keen to see where we go on that one. Obviously, the communications informed us of the fact that some of the reasons that things happened is around some of our infrastructure becoming brittle because of geothermal. Obviously, that's a massive concern to that community. It's a massive concern to me. We're in a geothermal area. I guess the question is holy hell, how much more does it impact on things? Are we getting our head around that sort of thing?
Yeah, so through the chair, that has been recognised, and our renewals plan going forward in the first 3 years is quite substantive down in that area in particular. We've allowed to replace about 3.9 kilometres of pipe through the Turangi and Takanu area, which is most of that. Obviously, that one that broke the other week has broken a few other times and is now jumping up those rankings. If it's not number 1, it's number 2, so it's certainly going to get done with some urgency.
Okay, moving on.
Stormwater.
Just the assurance from it, I guess, is that as officers, we're seeing this as the major priority at the moment. You know, it's bread and butter. We need to get it right, and what's been happening isn't good. You've seen some of the reasons for that. You know, thank you for approving the unbudgeted money and obviously the money into the long-term plan. But the results will start to come, but it will take some time to start to see some of those as well. But every time that we get one of these things, it's a horrible sinking feeling for us all, because it feels like Groundhog Day every single time.
Solid waste.
So I'm happy to take the solid waste and the stormwater as read, because everything's pretty much on track in those areas.
Okay. Democracy and planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll take that item as read. It's probably a shared one now, given our changed roles, but I'll take the item as read, and I'm sure any of the team will try and answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Any questions of Brian? No? All right. Investments, we've done that, have we? Covered that, yeah. Yep. Economic development.
I think you heard it all this morning. I mean, I have nothing more to add really, apart from
for the resolution.
Yeah. Thanks. What you want me to do now? Is that all from John? Any questions of John? Ooh, lucky. Right. Okay, suggested recommendation there. Council notes the information contained. Council performance report for the month of February. Do I have a move, please? Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Suzhou, Archway, 5.11. Sue. Sue from Suzhou. Sue, you're looking very fresh, actually. Myself and Sue had a big delegation in last night. How many were there? 50? 32.
Yeah.
So it was quite a late night and plenty of gumbaying, Mr. CEO. But anyway, nice to see you, Sue, and thank you for doing those hard yards last night, because they're great. You know, they all booked a room, separate room at Suncourt Hotel.
Yes, yeah. I was going to talk about that in my presentation.
Sorry.
But they were due to be staying in Rotorua for 2 nights. They were a Chinese opera that were performing at Sky City the day before, a couple of shows, and then as the normal sort of itinerary goes, they would stay in Rotorua for a couple of nights. So working with our partners Suzhou, our friendship city, and with the #1 China restaurant, we convinced them to stay in Taupo for 2 nights. So at least 5,000 in accommodation alone added to our city for those couple of nights. And they thoroughly enjoyed the China restaurant and their stay here. So yeah, that was pretty exciting to see some work that had been several years in the making, and then to see the outcome that people will actually change their itinerary to come here. So we hope to see more of that in the future.
Cool. Right.
Okay. So this year sees Taupo celebrating its 10th anniversary with our sister city Suzhou in China. In acknowledgement of this, the town has been offered a significant gift in the form of a granite archway. So in December last year, we held a workshop with councillors to discuss the 10-year anniversary celebrations, and councillors agreed to accept the archway. So the purpose of this item is for council to officially accept the archway, to discuss and approve the preferred location, and to approve unbudgeted expenditure for the installation. So just a note, there is an amendment to the item. Since the item was submitted, we've had further discussions with construction companies and engineers, and there are still so many unknowns on the assembly of the structure. It's 7 tonnes of granite and there's over 64 pieces. So they're just not sure. There may be some complexities when it arrives. So the item we're asking for 35,000, and we would like to amend this to 45,000. Looking at the total cost of the project, we estimate it to be between 60 and 70,000, with 25,000 contribution coming from the Public Art Fund and 45,000 unbudgeted expenditure from council. So just going through a couple of background to this project. We signed our official agreement with Suzhou in February 2008, and since then it's been quite an active partnership. And as a significant gesture to celebrate that partnership, Suzhou have offered us this gift of a 4.2 high metres by 4 metre archway. There's an example of what it looks like in the item there. It's a significant gesture in Chinese culture. An archway is used to commemorate a big event or an outstanding person, and in this case it's the importance that's placed on our relationship. Suzhou have advised that the archway should be positioned in a public place such as a garden or a road. Obviously a road in our situation is not appropriate, and that it should be easy for people to visit and enjoy the structure. The plan is for the installation of the archway to happen in time for an opening in August this year, to coincide with the opening of the Suzhou exhibition at the Taupo Museum. So there'll be visiting delegates from Suzhou here at that time, and would be able to take part in official celebrations. So part of this, I guess this is part of a larger program that we have planned for the year for celebrations. We're excited to be working with the Taupo Winter Festival on their 2018 program, which is due to be released any day. We'll be welcoming Suzhou performers from opera, music and folk singers, and we're planning a Chinese banquet dinner for one of the main events of that program. We're working with Waireki to host some Suzhou chefs, and they're working in collaboration with the chefs out there to put on or develop a menu, and they'll be there during the event to give live demonstrations. So we're quite excited about that. We're expecting about 15 delegates as part of that event. They'll also put on workshops. We've got some close relationships with the schools here who have sister school arrangements with schools in Suzhou, so they'll be part of workshops where the performers, they'll get to interact with the performers, and there'll also be a lunchtime concert. We'll be welcoming the Suzhou art exhibition later in the year, which will be at the Taupo Museum between August and November, and that's an extremely prestigious for us to be receiving such an exhibition of this calibre. It's the type of exhibition that you would normally expect at Te Papa, so it's valued at over $4 million, and yeah, will feature artefacts sort of thousands of years old, so it's pretty significant for us. And then we're also planning an exhibition to go up to China that's proposed for 2020, and that we're looking at Tūwharitau artists being part of that exhibition. So some exciting things on the plan. This installation of the archway we consider as a visual public acknowledgement of our official sister city relationship. Chinese visitors to Taupo, as Damien talked about earlier, have been a small part of the market, but this is a growing market. And speaking to Kathy from Waireki, they've had 6,000 Chinese stay over this year alone. So that's a significant business for them, and something that they are looking to grow as well. So we've faced competition from neighbouring regions such as Rotorua, and as I just discussed earlier, we're looking to pinch visitors, who would usually plan their itinerary to stay there, to now come across and stay in Taupo. So one of the key aspects to consider is that the sculpture fit into its surroundings and with the appropriate setting, landscaping and lighting. There have been a number of locations that have been considered, but the preferred site we have chosen is within the Tongariro South Domain, due to its proximity to the CBD, the connection to the lake and the mountains, and the established nature of the gardens that are already there, requiring a less landscaping than other sites. There's a number of structures currently within the gardens, including a friendship rock acknowledging international engagements of the Friendship Fellowship with cities all over the world, and in time the South Domain could house other sculptures from our sister and friendship cities celebrating connections. And this is a public acknowledgement of these relationships and something the community can share and engage in. So I guess just the final thing is that these civic relationships are hugely important to the beginning of commercial activity, and that's something that we're focused on. Investment in China starts with these civic relationships. So to build those, you need a strong civic relationship to start with. So I guess, yeah, if I can, I'll leave it there, and if you've got any questions.
So very detailed agenda item, so well done on that. Any questions of Sue? Questions around the location or time?
Not so much related to location, we think, Your Worship, but just so had a call from one of our local business people in Turangi who's really interested to form a relationship with Sujo. Just talk me through that, like if the sister city relationship, can he tag on from a business perspective? Obviously we want to encourage that throughout the district. I mean, how does that look? Can I just put him in touch with you to say, hey?
Yes, yeah, we were happy to discuss that, and we can just look at what types of activities or what they're looking to do, and we can certainly start connecting them with Sujo,
cool.
for sure.
Cool. And probably just other thing, Your Worship, just not on subject, but just in relation to relationships, myself and Councillor Stewart and the Community Board Chairman hosted Kitoshi Obara last weekend, honouring the 20th anniversary for that sister city relationship. It was fantastic. Thank you, Sue, for the work you did in pulling that together. They had a wonderful time cruising around Turangi. We showed them all the prime sites, and thank you, Mr. Red, for getting me in trouble with sake. Anyway, thanks.
Very good.
Yeah, I think this fits in really well with the South Domain. I'd just like to ask one question. Has it still got its accreditation for a significant garden?
It's still currently got it, but it's up for, I think it's up for assessment in October this year.
Okay, because this would sort of enhance that.
It's something else, I guess, but yeah, what we've been indicated, and I think we've shared that with you previously, is that that South Domain will need some investment over time to maintain that accreditation. We don't quite know where that's going to get to at this next assessment process, but this can't hurt it, definitely.
So, with that little comment, because I think it is important to me and to the community that garden keeps that accreditation. It's like Standard & Poor's to me for finance. You know, what are we actively trying to make sure that we secure that
we are.
accreditation?
So we're managing the garden or the site the best that we can at the moment. The advice that we got at the last accreditation was that it was starting to look tired and may need some more investment over time. What we're proposing is that we keep maintaining it the way that it is now. We're coming up for a reassessment again, Mr. Says, the end of the year. If that, will depend on the results of that, may require some further work, and we don't know what that is or what scale that is,
Okay.
but this piece of work certainly won't hurt or hinder that process.
Yeah, it should enhance it, really. Yeah.
And the sign needs replacing too. Yes. Yeah, it's a big frame there, no sign on it.
Oh, okay.
Have you not seen it? No.
No, I haven't. No.
On Ferry Road. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, it was Garden of Significance sign.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Oh, what's it called?
The South Domain.
Yeah. What's the accreditation it's got?
Just garden of significance.
So that was a big sign there on Ferry Road.
Is that not there?
It's just a black frame.
It was, I think, pointing to the Aura Garden at the museum, and it was vandalised, and so they were looking at replacing it, but it's just taken some time to do that.
Well, we should try and get that replaced. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Any other questions or Sue?
Well, once again, I budgeted money. I'm not questioning another 10 grand. We get 25 as part of our contribution from the Public Art Fund. Where else can we get a contribution? Is there a particular budget we can use within our books, or it just seems that we need another, and it's going to be 60,000. It could be 70,000.
So initially it was going to be the 60, and then it's now up to the 70. Initially we were going to be coming to you asking for that whole lot. We've looked at, and our suggestion, and it's a suggestion to you, that that 25 of that can be taken from the public arts budget. that does mean that you've got nothing left in the public art budget for that year. So should the Sculpture Trust or somebody else come in, the answer is actually we don't have anything, wait till the following year. But in my mind this is a piece of public art, so that fits with that. To be really frank, and you've heard Mr Manhennett talk about it before in terms of the reforecasting exercise, we don't have any other monies available that we can pinch. So if you're of a mind to continue with this archway, it purely is unbudgeted money.
I think what Councillor Body's leading to is even potential sponsors out there, just thinking of the people that are benefiting from these Chinese visits.
Number one Chinese restaurant, but also when this council took a trip recently to China, there was, is it the Chinese New Zealand Business? I mean, yeah, if it's $1, it's $1 that we don't have to put up ourselves. And I think there'd be one hell of a lot of ratepayers in this district saying, what the hell are you doing? We know because it's in Taupo town, that wider community really couldn't care, and that's what I'm very conscious of.
I'm wondering whether I could suggest just a slight amendment to the resolution as our recommendation, just on the council body's theme that the council approves this 45,000, but acceptable to any public donations that could be forthcoming. You know, I'm thinking Shanghai Puntsman for an example, large operator in the area, large operations here, they could be worth $5 grand, who knows? I'm just trying to think, we should not discount that possibility. What do you reckon, Sue?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can investigate and we can approach and see.
The Pocono milk plant,
It might be just a call
Chinese.
from me, Muraka, you know, it might be a call from me, hey, we're doing this archway, and it'll be a focal point because every visitor, every Chinese visitor will go and have a look at it. You can just see that happening.
There will be signage. Yes.
Yeah, so we could allow for a little park on it or something like that, but I think Sue, you and me spend a day running around, you'll possibly come up to 10k. You know? So, good idea, John. Thank you. Right. So the suggested resolution here. As well, or something like
We just need to make sure we can crack on with it. That's all.
Yeah, we're going ahead.
And if we can get some income in just to offset that. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's an investigation. The council is pleased to receive any other sources of
I think
funding.
if we just change resolution 3, that council approves unbudgeted expenditure up to a maximum of $45,000 for person installing, and then a new word additional funding sources will be investigated.
We still want the project to be 45.
It's still going to happen. Yeah.
All right. That's cool. Any other comments?
Just a comment from me, if we are just securing additional sponsors, just to be sensitive to the fact that the relationship is between us and the sister city, and we wouldn't want to cause any offence or damage to the relationship by passing on that, but I'm sure you can handle that. Because Guangxi is very important here.
We might not be able to come up with anything, but I think we should ask the question. Yeah. You know, some businesses, whether it's hospital or whatever, are gaining significant extra revenue from these visitations. So I think it's incumbent on us to ask the question anyway, politely, and come back from there. But if we're successful, we'll no doubt let you know. If we're not, we'll shut up. Yeah. Okay. Is anyone happy to move that suggested amended recommendation there? Yeah, moved by Councillor Harvey, seconded by Councillor Johns. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against? Carried. Thank you. 5.12. Changes to delegations. Tina.
Thank you, Your Worship. So there's 3 parts to this agenda item. The first one, and we've had discussions around it over the last few months in terms of delegation to the Chief Executive in relation to contracts. So this is really bringing this to you to consider amending the existing delegation of $250,000. Do you want to do them separately, each part, or would you like me just to go through each of the different areas?
No, just go through.
Okay.
Whatever you think's most expedient. Thank you.
Yep. The second one is around just changes in terms of titles with the structural changes that we've had in relation to the Resource Management Act. And the last one is sub-delegation from the Chief Executive to the senior leadership team as a result of those changes as well. And happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Thank you, Your Worship. Tina, do we actually have a policy or a manual on how the different relationships will play out for these delegations, these financial delegated authorities across the different aspects of our work, and how that will work with the RMA as well? Because I can't find anything when I looked.
Okay, so the delegations that you give are very broad to the Chief Executive. He then has the ability to sub-delegate the financial delegations through to officers, and also in terms of the RMA delegations, those are the ones that, two particular ones that have been listed there, but basically all the delegations that are able to be delegated in terms of the RMA have been.
So we have a
Yep.
So we have a set manual or procedures or framework to follow on this?
Absolutely. So I can help. We've got a delegation manual which outlines, say if we take financial delegations, who in the organisation cascades down from the delegation that you give me. So, for example, the old group manager positions had generally about $100,000 delegation, and then it flows down from there down to positions that might have, I think the lowest might be $5,000 or something akin to that. In terms of exercising those delegations, because one matter is about having them, the second matter, and probably the more important, is about exercising them. We do have a whole lot of procedures and policies around that you'll be aware of because of the Audit and Risk Committee obligations, which is around things like a two-up or a one-up process of approval of purchasing. So an officer, one person can't approve or can't expend money without it being a one-up approval process for the next person. Obviously part of that is that within my delegation, is there a budget? Because all of this has to be budgeted as well before it can be approved. So our systems are robust that can't occur without that system happening, and they're audited on a regular basis as well.
I just had a couple of other questions, just in terms of clarification what we mean by contracts. In terms of the scope, what are we talking about when we mean contracts? I'm just trying to get some definition around this because it feels to me a little bit loose.
Okay, so basically it's really, I mean, if you have a look at today, most of the agenda's been in terms of the contracts that have come up to you because they're over that $250,000. Normally the Chief Executive, in terms of anything under that, they will go to him for final approval for work that has been budgeted for and scoped in either the long-term plan or the annual plan.
So I guess
above the delegations.
On a almost daily basis, I'll be signing off contracts on your behalf under my delegation, and much like what you have today. So if it's under the $250,000, likewise, right through the organisation, that cascades down, so that the head of departments, the old group managers, would be doing it for that, anything under $100,000 as an example, and then as it flows through. So I guess what we're recommending here, and frankly I don't actually hear what the dollar amount is or anything like that. This is about trying to find some administrative efficiencies to the process. What we're suggesting here as a starting point though is that, as we spoke about today with the footpath one, you've already approved the project and the budget through the long-term plan process. So you've already said, yes, this is a project that we want to do, and yes, this is a budget that associates with it or attaches to it. The issuing of the contract, like what you've done today, is simply a procedural matter at that point in time. So that's the starting point of why we're saying if it's within budget, if it's in the long-term plan and it's within budget, then administratively there is sense in it being done at the lowest possible level, and that simply is that our construction windows are quite tight, and whilst you get an agenda once a month, it's probably about a 6-week lead in time by the time that tenders are received and opened, and then you get an agenda come through and then finally signed off. So that's quite a lengthy period of time that we are not actually out doing the work. So it does just mean that there's more energy and effort for the project managers to put into actually going out and building things.
So if we had a situation where there was CapEx expenditure that you needed to bring forward,
yep.
would that come? You would come to us.
Yep. So this would only, as proposed here, would only apply to things which are totally within budget and the long-term plan. So some of the things that you've spoken about today, were about moving budgets around and making some of those value judgments. They would still come through to you. Sure. So this would be just the very clear ones that you've allowed a budget of $500,000 for project X. The tender's come in at $440,000. Bang, it's done because you already made that decision.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I'm all for encouraging some efficiencies and quickness in decision making. I just think it's really important in terms of governance that we've got a line of sight yep. in terms of what's happening, and that's about that accountability and transparency, and that's also protecting you, because we are your employer and we have to set up a framework to protect you, and we also need to make sure that we've got the transparency with our ratepayers. I'm comfortable with the direction of travel on this, but from an audit and risk perspective, I would like to see a little bit more robustness around the policies and the procedures that go with that, and then I would be comfortable to approve it. But at the moment, I think I'm asking questions, and we're thinking about it as we go, and I just really think I would prefer if we just parked this, got some sort of delegations approval process set up. It wouldn't take long to do. Hamilton City Council, Auckland City Council, Gisborne, they all have those procedures in place, all designed to encourage procedural efficiency and let you get on with the business of doing it, because frankly we've sat here for an hour and a half and approved tenders, which I don't really think we need to do. But I just think there's a little bit more work we need to do in this space, and I'd be a lot more comfortable if we're talking about annual plans rather than long-term plans as well. I just would care to get my fellow councillors' thoughts.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm quite happy. Like Roseanne, I agree. I'm happy with the direction of travel, but if it was, I just wouldn't want to feel one step removed, sort of, from the process. And with projects like for Downers 3 water contract, for example, that was budgeted at like 12 million, but we let it for 11.4. Is that saying that council wouldn't be involved in that because it's in the plan?
Correct. So if that was subject to this resolution, yes, absolutely, because it's within budget. You've already gone through your long-term plan and said yes, that's what you're going to do. And so if it's within budget, yeah. Yeah. Just like the $20-odd million worth of staff wages, I don't bring them up to you either.
No.
So if it's within plan and within budget, then we do it.
When I was up in Hamilton yesterday, I spoke to some of my committee colleagues from different councils, and every council was different. One didn't even know what a CEO's financial delegation was, nor did he ever see any sort of tenders, through to the CEO having $500,000 and another having $1 million in financial delegations. So I think there's something we can do for efficiencies and whatnot, but I'm just as elected by the ratepayer to sit here and look after their best interests, and it's nothing to do with the person at all, but yeah, something like 11.4 million, I see that as significant, even though it is within the budget. I've just got a level of uncomfort around the big projects.
So through the chair, if I may, so the one you referenced there was a maintenance contract. We're currently going through the road maintenance contract, and we've brought that in front of you guys for workshops and understanding the direction that we're going. That would still remain the same. Gareth has mentioned about there's delegations and then there's exercising those. So you wouldn't be amiss in anything and not understanding the process going forward to all of those, because we still do that.
Councillor Stewart?
I take it slightly different. I'm thinking that if it's in the long-term plan and we've set a budget for it, it comes up in that tender within that budget, we can't change that anyway. So I don't understand. I totally agree that we should allow the chief executive to have, if it's in budget, we can't take it out of the budget of the long-term plan at that stage. It's been approved. I don't see the difficulty.
So I think what Councillor Park's getting at is you don't get to see the tender, and you know, like quite often it being approved a year before. But what you're saying is you see, say Higgins are successful in oh yeah, okay, we're giving them a bit of business. You know, you sort of get a bit more involved. Yeah, I sort of know they're our suppliers. We spend a lot of money with them, but once we approve it for the LTP, we don't get to see it again. So is that what you're sort of getting at, you girls?
For me, it's just about making sure that we've got a framework, so we're very clear what fits in what box, and Gareth and the team can just get on and do stuff. There's too many unanswered questions here. I mentioned CapEx brought forward. What about deferred payments? What about contracts that get rolled over that were within a term, or we're paying for them all up front? I think we need to, as governance, be able to have those discussions, and we can't do that if we do this.
So if I can through the chair, so we do have all of those answers, and we can do that today. But probably what I'm getting to from this conversation is maybe a workshop discussion, so that we can work you through those delegations of what we've got, because we do have the procedures and the manuals and all those questions that you're raising. There's answers there, but it's obvious that you don't understand that, so we need to be able to talk you through that.
To be fair, I don't think it's a matter of we don't understand. I think it's just we don't have that framework in place that brings that all together, and that's what I'm asking for, so that we can get ahead and do this.
And that's what I'm saying, we do have the framework, but you don't have it in front of you. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. We do, but perhaps we need to have that in front of us.
That's right.
The council's delegation manual. And that's what this recommendation is changing some of those clauses in the document. Yep. But what we should have in front of us is the old document, and then replace it with these new procedures.
So perhaps, and I'm hearing that, so I think a suggestion maybe if we leave this lie on the table for the moment, we'll set up a workshop, and we'll do that, and we'll bring to you the delegation manual and the procedures that we go through. And all of our purchasing procedures, etc., so that you're aware of that, and then you can have a discussion about what you're then comfortable with.
And I think it would be fair to say that all the contracts that we've let today would have probably still come back to council, because it was majority of them had got unbudgeted items in them.
Correct.
So although there was not, some of them was only 300,000, it was still over the actual budget. So they would have still have had to come back to council, wouldn't they?
Correct, for most of them, and that I guess is the point as officers, is that even if it's unbudgeted by a small amount, by $10,000, that should be something that you as governance consider, as opposed to just a hard and fast dollar amount.
Sorry, Councillor Harvey.
Look, I'm along the lines of Maggie, and you have the delegation, etc. Perhaps there's a thought that while we review this and have a workshop, maybe in the meantime it could be 500,000 or some sort of benchmark, because as you say, they would have come to us anyway. But if it was a normal standard under budget, if it's under 500, surely that should be something you're quite capable of dealing with.
Now. It's 250.
It's 250.
Through the chair. Yep. I think from a government's point of view, the ratepayers and community see us, as governments taking ultimate responsibility for the big decisions. But I think really, I'm comfortable with the direction of travel, but I think we probably need to sort of be sort of transparent. If we're transparent to the community, we show there's efficiencies in reducing costs with some great communication through the community. I think that could be part of the workshop to try and get that through, as well as the understanding delegations, etc., etc.
Okay, well, I think sorry, John.
Just a quick one follow-on thing from Councillor Hickleen and others, we did the Whakamaru wastewater treatment plant before. Our budget's 400,000, but the tender was for 349, but there's a contingency of 100,000. How would that fit in? So, for instance, it was 400,000, which is what the budget says, and it's but there's 100 in there that would be outside that gambit. I'm not happy with the direction that we're going.
So that one would come to you because the reason that there's the contingency, and you heard the officer talk about the fact that there was the uncertainty. That's why we've allowed for that contingency. So that would come to you.
I would feel better as a representative of the ratepayers that I sit in this council and make that decision, because at the end of the day, we're the directors of this board and we're responsible. We all know what happened to Fletcher Challenge.
And I'm agreeing with you in saying that you would, in that situation, you would do.
Okay, well, I think there's appetite for a workshop. Myself personally, I like to see those tenders because I'm a nosy bugger, and I see the guy down the street and I say, well done, you've been awarded that contract, great, get those staff on or whatever. So I sort of like that side of it because that's the way I am. But we'll bear that out in the workshop, I think. Is that all right, Mr. CEO? And Councillor Christine wanted to say some parting words.
I just wanted to say, surely there's a mechanism that we could have where we know when you've done it, but if we've already approved it, we don't have to go back over that process, because I liken it to what happens with developments where the planners agree to deviation. We don't know, and that frustrates me, and I'm sure there's a simple mechanism in there too. We've already approved it. Surely there is some way you can say, I acted on your decision in the long-term plan to do this, this and this, and this is what's happened in the last month. There must be something straightforward we can do without having to debate it again, unless there is a variation to it, where of course it comes back to us. I want to make it as easy as I can with us still having full knowledge of what you've done.
So that will most likely be the outcome of the workshop, I would say. Yeah. So thank you. Very good. So we'll just park that one at the moment. 5.13 is council engagements, April and conference opportunities. Right. And we've got a request here from Councillor Park to go to something, Road Safety Summit in Wellington, and Councillor Harvey to go to Nelson.
There's also
two more, sorry.
Two more to add on to that. So Developing New Zealand Summit 2018 in Wellington, 30th and 31st of May, and the National Emergency Management Conference in Wellington on the same date in May.
Okay. Yes.
I'd just like to speak to that development one, Your Worship.
Yep.
I've been getting emails, and it's really not in my portfolio, to be quite honest. I've had to think about it, but it does seem quite a good 2-day conference. The program is pretty interesting, but it's more around economic development, and I'm supposed to be under arts and culture, so it really don't fit in with my portfolio. So, as I say, I've been getting the emails, so I thought I'd just pass it on because it does seem like a good conference.
So the cost of that conference is
about $1,700.
Yeah, $1,799.
Yeah, which is expensive, admittedly, but
plus accommodation, plus like that.
But it is 2 days, and
okay, Councillor Park.
Yes, thank you. Just with the Local Government Road Safety Summit, that's with the regional transport hat on. We were encouraged to attend at the last regional transport. Also, the National Emergency Management Conference. I actually haven't been to one of these for a couple of years now, and I believe Councillor Truman is keen to go as well.
Councillor Harvey.
And just to elaborate, 'cause I'm sorry I have to leave very shortly, on the Freedom Camping Symposium, I was invited to that because I'd been to the other one. So, look, I don't mind. I think it's probably something that would be worthwhile, but I'm happy to leave the decision to council.
Just to clarify on that one, I think they've asked you to speak at that one as well,
Yeah.
haven't they?
Be part of a panel.
Don't
Be
you
part,
speak
of,
about
be
Ferry
part of
Road.
a panel.
Don't you talk about Ferry Road, I'll tell you.
I tell you what, that's one of the best decisions we've actually made. That's an unbelievable bylaw, how quick it's worked. Whoever did the signage, everything, got it spot on. Unbelievable. People are parking there now, but they're gone by 5. That's great. All right. Okay, Tina, have we got any money in the budget for all these things?
We got over in the conference budget area, but in the total cost centre for you, we'd be able to accommodate that more than down in terms of savings.
Sorry, I don't know if I've got the...
Sorry?
We're over budget.
So we're over budget in this particular conference cost centre, but the overall budget for running the democracy side would be able to accommodate that. We're under budget in that.
Just through the chair, the road safety summit is, there's no cost to that apart from getting to Wellington.
And just delete number 4. I just reading the agenda. Well, that's why I think you should look at the program, Christine, to be quite honest. Well, for me to go, not, but Christine might like to go, that's all.
We need to make it, there's an early bird fee,
There's an
which
early
is
bird
tomorrow,
fee.
I think, or the next
Okay,
day,
so
so
Christine can have a look at the agenda.
we can leave it,
Whenever you wanna go.
there, and if Councillor Rankin decides to go, it's been approved, and if not, then that's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
Can I get the information, please?
yeah, Tina's got it, yeah. You've got the info, haven't you? Yeah. You've circulated it, okay, so.
Number 5, Councillor Hannah and Kirsty. All right, those conferences, are they? Worth it?
Yes, they're $500 per person for registration. I don't know what the cost of one else was. Trying to get out of it. I think that was about $2,000.
So seriously, I mean, if it's open, I don't mind either way. I just need to let them know because I've been invited to be on the panel, so I don't mind. But I would tell you that I Uber my way around Wellington and pay for my own fares.
And Uber's coming to Queensland.
I went to the last one.
Yeah, good on you. It's fantastic service. All right, okay. John? Rosie?
It's on the curve when you're coming from the Harbour Master's office heading north. There's signs that were put up by Doc. Now, when I went down to see him. By that stage, Mr. Davenport had sent him an email. I don't know what was in it, because I've had Freedom campers saying our map has got that blank area, and in fact they can park there, self-contained. Has that been followed up by any staff member?
I think it's probably legal parking. Is it public road?
I don't know.
It's our road reserve, not what's part of internal affairs. Yeah, but what I'm saying, that have the signs been changed so that people know they can now park there?
We wouldn't put a sign below it.
No, but the sign from the northern end needed to be moved back to that bend so people knew the rest of it going north was free for camping. I don't know whether that's been done or whether there's a follow-up, but I can go and have a talk to the guy if need be.
Just to clarify, the one that Councillor Harvey was talking about, I'm just looking at online here, it's actually free, so it's just flights that it would be to get down to Nelson. It's an LGNZ freebie.
Okay. All right. Good.
So it's just flights.
Okay, so we'll leave that one in there for him. Okay, could I have a mover, please, for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Queen, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Right, thank you, Tina. Is that it? Oh, sorry, members' reports. Any members' reports, verbal, or table them up here?
Just a verbal one, Your Worship. I think we all received a letter about some trees in the gully from Jan Houston. John and I went down to have a look at it, and I'm hoping to connect with the top end of the gully that hopefully we'll be doing in the next fortnight. So we did go down and have a look at it and talk to her, and there are some trees that I think we could help her with. So, yeah. Yeah, the house is low down. There's a retaining wall up here, and then the reserve on the top. So it is shading the house quite a bit.
Thank you. Have we formally responded to her, do you know, at all?
Well, apart from John and myself visiting her, and there's another lady, Alexander. Yeah.
Who's that?
But that's slightly different because it's right in the base of the gully, and all that weed and stuff actually protects the gully floor.
So that one we have replied to through Anna, who's taken that up with her. So and that was very much the response. So there's some work that we can do, and we've provided some on the sides, but the gully floor is actually about stormwater, and you need that height of the vegetation to be able to slow the water down. So for it to do its job, unfortunately, it does look a bit scruffy. But
Pauline Alexander.
I just wonder, just in relation to those, I'm still not sure. What is our game plan there? So when we get sent an email as councillors, I mean, I'm really unsure about how we respond. You know, if some of the stuff relates to operations, do we just flick it on to Gareth? I mean, are we any clearer about what that process is? Because I loathe not to respond to things, but then I don't have the answers sometimes.
And they don't want 11 responses. So my suggestion would be that if you're all copied in, then the mayor takes responsibility for it, and if it's something that he feels that he can respond to, or that I can draft a response for him, whichever it sits, or he might flick it on to me if it is operational to do. So that would be my suggestion. And that's the sort of the role of the mayor in that sense. I guess if it comes through to you individually, then without going to anybody else, then that's a judgment call for you to make about is there value in getting your colleagues or the staff involved.
Excellent.
And through the chair, can I suggest to David that if it's a query that fits one of our portfolios, you're more than welcome to pass it on to the councillor that's representing that portfolio to comment as well. It's just as long as we see each other in, and they don't drop through the cracks.
Yeah, I'd just like to add about the Kaunihera visit that we had for 20 years. It was our 20-year anniversary. The importance that Kaunihera put on the relationship is shown in their attitude, and they haven't been to see us for about 5 years because of the earthquake and the tsunami that they had over there, but they really want this relationship to grow. They were absolutely delightful. They have extended an invitation to, a verbal invitation for us to go, and some from councils to go and visit, and I'm sure that will come formally as well. The gift they gave us was absolutely beautiful. There was one for Turangi and one for Taupo. I'm not sure where the Taupo one is. It's Japanese art. It's absolutely beautiful. The gift we gave them was stunning, and they totally appreciate the amount of effort that went into their visit. The staff were amazing. Thank you so much. It got a bit hairy there for a while, but we got through, and it was perfect. So yeah, it's just such a lovely thing, and we really need to keep that emphasis going, and the importance of that relationship can grow, and I feel that this was a really good step into growing that relationship. Great. Thank you.
There's a couple of us that are in Japan on private business in September next year, so as a result of that we've made some really good connections, and we will go and visit them as part of that privately funded tour.
Just through the chair, the Taupo gift, I was left with Andy and Kima, the 2 pieces of art.
Sorry, I didn't get that one.
The Taupo gift of the Chinese
art.
It was like Japanese.
Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees, Michael Pennies. Okay, all right.
Oh, just a quick verbal report from me. The greening greening Taupo's planting season has started again. We had a big community planting day down by the Control Gates Bridge, and it looks amazing. And there were people picking up rubbish. The Hilton Hotel was there cooking sausages. Sean the Veginator was there hustling us all along. But just encourage you to have a look at the calendar. There's pretty much a planting event once a month right up to about September. So it's lots of fun. So if you get a chance, come along.
Cool. Very good. Okay, thank you. Members' reports, that we've received them. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Huckling, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Right. The supplementary.
The public.
Yeah, we're doing these minutes first, aren't we? Public
So
minutes
you've
first.
added, the public ones.
Yeah.
It's under the supplementary.
So receipt of the public minutes of the Lake Taupo protection, correct? You've got those on diligent? I have got one.
There's a public.
He's been watching the reruns. Okay, well, the minutes, where are the minutes actually? Oh, they're in that supplementary, eh?
Yeah, not that one.
Right.
This one here.
So this is the minutes of the protection project that was held on 12th of March 2018 and was intended by Councillor John and Councillor Roseanne, correct? So would you like to move that those minutes are correct and accurate?
Yes, I can move.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, welcome, guys. Yeah. Okay, so welcome Dan McLeod. Sorry, what was your name? Tanya, thank you for coming today. We're just approving these minutes. Is there any questions of Anne and Tanya here regarding these minutes? Right, all pretty straightforward. Anne, did you want to make?
Oh, just a couple of comments, so if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
The reason why these are quite significant is that this is your first review of your monitoring deed, and that document is basically there to make sure that those who have invested in this project, keep their line of sight on what's happening with the Lake Taupo Protection Project going forward. So the first review has been done. There are a couple of changes that are suggested, not so much to the monitoring deed itself, but to some of the supporting documents. And this is to give you better information about reporting on and how the project's actually going. So what will be coming back to you is some actual changes to them, some tweaks to the monitoring deed. So they'll come back to you for formal signing once the other partners have also agreed to those changes. So that's the significance of the recommendation that's sitting in front of you.
Something I remember, let's hope I'm on the right page, as I haven't got it in front of me. Was there something to do with Te Whātua representation?
Yes, so Te Whātua is a partner who sits on the joint committee, but they're not actually a signatory to the monitoring deed at this point. There's some work that's been done around getting a legal opinion as to whether they can be a signatory to the deed, but also around some of the implications of that as well. So that will be part of that'll form part of the package coming back as well.
And I guess the only other comment I wanted to make was, after we had this meeting, we had a presentation from the Lake Protection Trust. We did the video and the book launch to celebrate all the work and the years of effort of everyone to get us to this point. It was well supported by a wide group of stakeholders across the community, and we also had the Parliamentary Secretary for the Environment there and a couple of politicians that had come in for the day. But I don't think we should underestimate the work that has been done, and I think the important part moving forward is the context that this piece of work is in perpetuity, and that the impacts of the work that we have done now are going to take several years to flow through. So that's, I think, as part of an educational program we need to keep talking about in our community. And we should be very proud of what we've done. I understand that the Minister for the Environment was here to talk to some of the Project Trust members this week about the work, and that's feeding into some of the work that the government's doing in terms of water discussions as well. So, you know, we do lead the world in what we've done, and we just need to keep that momentum up.
Great. All right. Do I have a move of Councillor John, seconded by Councillor Williamson. Thank you, Anne and Tanya, for coming. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Right. Lovely. Thank you very much.